And we will be covering all the chapters here: formulas, function, tips, and shortcuts, if and related function. Let's dive into this. So in formulas, tips, and shortcuts, we will learn about how do we display and highlight the formulas, how do we use the auditing tools, how do we use entire row column references, uh, using formulas values to update the values without the formulas, and debugging the formulas, readability, increasing the range names, and creating a three-dimensional formulas by connecting multiple sheets. We'll also complete if and related functions. Uh, the simple if function will start with simple if. Then we'll start to create the nested if function, and if inside of an if. We'll also do the compounding of the if with and, or, not. And finally, we will do the new version of the if function, the plural version, the ifs function for multiple conditions. We'll dive into lookup and reference functions, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but yeah, we'll also do the lookup and reference functions. We'll start with VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, the basic function, why we need them. We'll cover approximate versions of VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP. We'll also work on VLOOKUP to find the exact match. We'll use the choose function. We'll also learn about switch function and how do we embed the formula, how do we embed the table into the formula. We'll locate the data using the match function. We'll also retrieve information of the location using the index function. Then we will use the index and match together to nest these functions. We'll also cover formula text, kind of a documentation tool, and we'll extract the unique items, not the duplicate item, but the unique items with the unique function. And we will also cover the XLOOKUP function. One of the function is not present here, which we will also cover, called nested VLOOKUP, a VLOOKUP inside of a VLOOKUP. So we will also be covering that as a part of the assignment. So a lot of assignments in this course, and so let's get started. So we have received this sheet here, the file, and somebody was working on this. Let's face it, this is a mess. Somebody was working on this file and he had to leave the organization. Now it has fallen into your lap and you are wondering what's going on here. Where are the formulas? So there are some basic rules, tips to find the formulas. If you would like to see all the formulas all at once, simply press the keyboard shortcut Ctrl and tilde. Now this is an indication of that key. It's found below the escape key on your keyboard and to the left of number 1. Press and hold the Ctrl and tilde key, and it will make all the column wider. It will double the column width, and wherever there's a formula, you see it. Wherever there's a formula, you'll just see that formula. Where is the formula? To turn that feature off, simply press Ctrl and tilde again. It will only double the column width, and wherever there's a formula, you will simply see that formula. Where is the formula? Simply press Ctrl tilde on the keyboard, or you can also go to the Formulas tab in the ribbon, and in the Formula Auditing group, you would see Show Formulas. Click on that. It will show wherever there's a formula, it will double the column width of all the columns in the sheet. And you can see where there's a formula, you will see that. Now it won't highlight those formulas. You can only see that it's a toggle button. So you can press it once, you see that, press it again, it just goes away. And there's a shortcut here, tilde, and it's derived from a Portuguese word. So Control tilde is a good shortcut to see where are the formulas. Now we see the formulas. We received this file. Somebody was working on it. He left the organization. Now this has fallen into our lap. It's our baby now. So we see there where are the formulas. But what do? just doesn't highlight those formulas. We can see those formulas, but it won't highlight those formulas. But we may want to highlight those formulas, so we just don't destroy those formulas. I see by looking at this sheet, cell B3 is important, D13 is important, L26 is also seems to important, because they're highlighted. Maybe they are sending information to some other sheet, maybe not. But for now, we want to highlight those formulas. So when we work on this sheet, we do not destroy those formulas. So to highlight the formulas, there are a couple of ways. Let's go back to the Home tab. On the far right, we have Find and Select. Click on Find and Select. Here you have formulas. Click on Formulas. It will highlight all the formulas on the sheet. Make sure you do not select anything. Simply be an active cell in the sheet anywhere. It will highlight all the formulas, and you can scroll up and down unless you click anywhere. Now, the formulas are all highlighted, and you may want to put a lighter color just to see the text through it. I'll put a light color so I can see the text through it. And now we can click outside. Now, where are the formulas? I see that, okay, these green highlighted are the formulas, and so we don't destroy those formulas. But we may also want to highlight the numbers. Back to the Home tab in Find and Select. Let's click on Go to Special. Click on Go to Special, and then click on Constants. And you can select here. Maybe you want to select only the text item or the number items or the errors or whatever you want to select, or the blanks or the region or current array. So we click on numbers, click OK. It highlighted all the numbers here because these are all the numbers as well. So let's click on that again. Let's go back, go to Special, Constants. In constants, we need numbers. We need a constant number. And click OK. So we have highlighted all the constant numbers. I may want to put another color, maybe a lighter color, so we can see the text through it. So wherever the number formula, we see that too. Now we can highlight the formulas. Remember, you're not doing any damage to the data. Data is still intact. We are just highlighting the important values, maybe sometimes formulas, sometimes numbers. We are just highlighting those numbers or the formulas. If you have any Excel workbook open, it contains some formulas. Press Ctrl tilde and see if that works for you. Ctrl tilde to highlight the formulas on the computer. Now, it has highlighted the formulas. It has highlighted the numbers here. Now, if I delete a formula here, let's say this is a formula, I know that. If I delete a formula, the color stays. If I add a new formula over here, let's say I add a new formula, 2 multiplied by 2, it doesn't color itself. So from time to time, you may want to eliminate all the colors, and you may want to redo this again, highlight again the formulas, and then recolor them. So from time to time, you need to do it again and again to add the color or add the number. If I add a number here, it will not color itself. And if I remove these formulas, the color stays. It retains the color. It doesn't automatically add or remove the colors. So from time to time, if this is an active sheet, you might want to eliminate all the color, reapply this feature again, add color. So once again, quick reminder, you're trying to just track down the formulas within the worksheet. Remember, the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl tilde, or by the way of Formulas tab in the ribbon, Show Formulas. Both cases will toggle switch or the feature that allows you to highlight the cells. Sometimes just the numbers that are not the formulas. You can begin the process by clicking on any of one of the active cell. Don't select anything, otherwise it will only search for that in the selected range. click within the active cell, one of the cell. You can go to the Home tab, find and select, and here we have go to Special or Formulas. So there too, you might want to reapply the color. So we got different techniques of finding formulas and when necessary, even highlighting cell that have just the numbers as well. Now, as we are looking at this worksheet called Auditing Tools in our file, Tips and Shortcuts, imagine you want to know, for example, which cell depends on which cell. Now, somebody was working on this file and suddenly he had to leave the organization. Now it has fallen into your lap and you're looking at the worksheet for a few minutes and you have realized and discovered that cell B3 is pretty important. And this cell L26 is also very important. So you click on cell B3 and it says it's a number. But why is it highlighted? Maybe it's pretty important. So you scroll down and you see, okay, it is getting value from P3. Now this P7 is getting value from P3. Now, which means that if you change this value 66 to 65 or 60, P7 will change. Now over here, you see that it is taking value from C1. So you go to C1, which means that this is also a number. So on C1 will also change. Now you might be wondering at this, if you change the cell number, if you change the value in cell P3, which other cells can change? Maybe you want to know at certain time which cell depends on V3. What other cells in the entire worksheet depends on this cell B3? If I say it differently, if I change the cell B3, if you change the value here, what other cells can change? Now we are looking at the dependencies of B3. Now let's say if I put in 1000 here or 10,000 here, keep an eye on the worksheet. You'll see, notice some of the cell values change. And do you remember what cell values have changed? There are a lot of those. So obviously, so let's go back to 66. So quite a few values have changed. Now you may want to know what cell values are getting changed. Now you can do this manually, nothing wrong with it, but it will take you several hours of your time. And you will also have a nagging feeling that you might have missed something. So fortunately, on the Formulas tab in the ribbon, we have an option that can tell us which cells are dependent on B3. So we select B3 here. And over here, we have an option called Trace Dependence in Formula Auditing. Now, make sure your keyboard speakers are on so it can tell you when it's done. So click on Trace Dependence and it says show arrows that indicate which cells are affected by the value of the currently selected cell. And there's a shortcut also, Control and right bracket to navigate to dependence of the selected cell. Trace dependence, and at once immediately you'll see direct arrows, which means that these cells are directly dependent on B3. So if I click on this cell, it will have some reference to B3. Over here, B3. Over here, B3. Over here, B3. Now, it could also be possible that if I click on this cell, some other value will also change indirectly. So the values in B7 and E5 will also change. So where is B7? Here. And E5 will also change. So there could be further dependencies on B7, B3. And if I change cell B3, not only we are changing these direct cells, there could be some indirect cells that we are also changing. So how do we know? Keep pressing trace dependence until you hear ding, ding, ding on the computer speaker, or you'll have no more arrows. If your speakers are turned on, you'll hear ding, ding, ding sound indicating that it's done. And many times it's 3 formulas, or several of the cells here. So all these cells where you have these blue lines here, or you'll not see any more lines. Trace dependence, there we are. All of the cells that have blue dot or arrow in them in some way or another way dependent on P3. Many times it's you'll see a dash line over here that we see a dash line also from cell G5. Let me zoom in a bit over here. Now we have this file here, 19861, and there's a dash line going on and with a table on it, with a sheet on it, a picture of a sheet. Now I'm going to click on the line, this black line. It is a little different and going in the opposite direction of the arrows. Now what does it mean? So let's double click on this line or the sheet, and it says go to. Now if I click on cell G5, it doesn't say what's happening. It says it's taking value from B3, but why do we have this line here? So if I double click on this line, it says module 1 tips and shortcut. I select it. Now it may be taking the value from some other file, some other sheet, or maybe it is sending the information to some other sheet. Now where is it sending? Now it is sending to update values sheet in tips and shortcuts in the cell A11. So do we have update values in the sheet at the bottom here? Now let's check. Here we are, and A11. So if I double click and if I select it and click on OK, it will take me to that particular location where it is sending this information. And here it says 19861, and it is in this cell, it says auditing tools G5. It is now sending the information to other file. So imagine if we change the values in cell B3, not only we are changing the values in this sheet, we could possibly be changing the values in some other worksheet or maybe some other file. We never know. So be careful with that. Trace dependence will tell you what values you're changing and where they are located. And it can not only impact on different cells in the worksheet, but also on another worksheet. Double click the dashed line. It tells what the relationship exists, and it may be on this worksheet or a different workbook. Update values at the bottom of the screen, the green tab in the sheet here, A11 cell, and it is sending information to the other sheet here. Now, another thing you might consider doing this as you view the screen, you might for documentation purpose might want to print this. I'll simply click on print, go to file or print preview, but I don't have print button in the ribbon. So remember, we can add print preview and print here in quick access toolbar. And then we click on print preview and print. Let's see what happens here. And over here, we see the entire sheet. And we see how this is going to print with all the lines showing all the dependencies, all the relationship here to another cell. Let's go back here. And if I unzoom it, if I go to the view tab, you might also want to show the grid lines. I've turned that off. You might consider showing those grid lines and now check the print preview. We have those lines. Maybe you don't want to show the headings. You can uncheck the headings here. Don't see the headings here. And we can bring it back. Now, this isn't mandatory that you need to show the grid lines, but it's all up to you. So if we want to print this, we better remove the arrows first. So we go to the formulas tab again, and in the formula auditing group, we have remove arrows. Click on remove arrows. Here we are. Again, This is not a damage to any cell. We are not changing in the value of any cell. We are just seeing which cell is dependent on which cell. Now, so-called the opposite direction. Now that's the choice we have there. Now, so-called the opposite direction is sometime also as important as the current direction. Now we are looking at the bottom of the sheet here in the cell L26. Now it's got a simple formula, max L11K26. So if I go to L11, L11, here it is. Now over here it says L9, L10. So if I go to L9, L10, it says E5. Now, and you might have already guessed, so how do we track it backwards? So to speak, in other words, let's find all the cell which, if altered, could impact the total in cell L26. The opposite of dependence is called precedence. Click it once, it will show you direct cells. Keep pressing it, and it will show you all the cells that are dependent. And ultimately, you will hear the ding sound or no more arrows, indicating that there no more cells are there. Let me unzoom it over here. And we also have a black line here in cell F13. Now these are the cells that you see are dependent, can impact the total in L26. But not only on this sheet, but maybe on a different sheet, different file, it can be anywhere. Now let me zoom in a bit here. We got a black line here with a sheet. Let's double click on that. Now the arrow is a little different here. Now it is moving in the direction of those arrows, not the otherwise. So I double click either ways, which means it is sending information. This information is coming from somewhere. Now it is sending information. This sheet is sending information here. Now if I double click on this line and it says update values again, let's go back. Now here it says it is sending information here. Now that cell is sending information there. Now this value is in update sheet, update values sheet A12. Now not only in this sheet, the total that can impact, but if we these values, other sheet can also impact the total in this cell. Now if I change the value over there, over here, it can change the total numbers there as well. So same general idea. At some point, if you're strictly observing this lines here, at some point you will not see any more lines here. And so looking backward, you might say we are looking at the cells which, if altered, could impact the total. And here too, you might want to do in this case, see a dash line here, and you see a formula. It's getting the value from somewhere else. Now it's getting the data from other sheet, and we can track that down easily. I think you can see here in both the cases really viable tools, and jump over to take a look at that. I think you can see these help us in understanding the worksheet pretty easily. In certain cases, it's really valuable, sometimes necessary. Here too, eventually we want to remove the errors. In both the cases, there are keyboard shortcuts here. Now, if you click on that cell, press Ctrl and that right arrow, solid bracket, it will highlight once all the cell direct cells, and keep pressing. It will highlight the second dependencies, third dependencies, fourth dependencies, and ultimately it says no cells are found. And same case over here, the shortcut is Ctrl and left bracket, trace precedents. So you can simply press Ctrl. It will show you direct dependencies. Highlight. It will only highlight those ones, not all of them, but it will only highlight ones. So you might want to consider this. Not a feature you use all the time, but it shows that dependencies that might. Now this doesn't show the shortcuts, the dependencies on the other sheet, like in the previous example. Now we are not seeing those those lines here. Now Control Shift left bracket, that will highlight all the cells here, or the right cell, Control Shift bracket. It will immediately highlight all the cells that are dependent. But again, it will not show you dependencies which are there on the other sheet. So that will only highlight the cells which, if altered, could impact total in B3. And trace dependence, trace precedence. found on the formula bar in the formula auditing group in the ribbon. And we also saw two keyboard shortcuts related to usage of those features. When you're working with formulas that deal with data in a row or in a column, at different times, it might be advantageous to refer to the entire row or entire column. And of course, you must know your data well in advance. In this worksheet called row references, we would like to come up with all these zone-wise total, north total, east total, south total, west total. Now we can certainly do that. We know which cities are there in north, east, south, and west. We can simply use the function here called sum, and we can select whatever cities are there in the north and east and south and west. But at the same time, we can give a reference to the entire row. So we know we can select entire Haryana and then comma, Himachal, comma, and then no more, press enter, and we have equal sum. East will have these 2, 3, 4 states, comma, we have this state as well. So what we're doing here is we are giving the reference to the entire row here. Press enter. There we go. And south, I'll simply press Alt equal. And for south, we have Karnataka, Kerala, and Andhra Pradesh. Okay, press enter. And for west, we have Goa, Gujarat, and press enter. So instead of adding the total up to here, what we're doing, we are giving the entire row reference, which means that in case if we add any more data here, it will automatically become the part of this. And of course, you must know your data well in advance. And if the list grows or shrink, you don't have to worry about redoing your formulas, retyping your formulas. It happens automatically. Your total will automatically update. If your data gets shrink, and you don't really have to worry about it because it will automatically update those values here. It will keep on updating those values. If I add one more total here, it will update these totals here. So you don't have to make any adjustment whatsoever. And again, you would know your data well in advance. No interim totals, no subtotal, no grand total. If you have a grand totals, you want to get rid of them. It works smoothly. Arrange. You can use sum, average, whatever function that you want to use. Max, minimum. It will work over there. You can give entire row reference. Next sheet over. In the column reference, we can give the reference to the entire column, all the columns here. And maybe let's say we want to quickly get the total of salary here. Of course, we can simply select column G here and we have all the totals at the bottom. But we want to get the total of the salary for documentation purpose. So we can give a reference to the entire column. Simply press Alt equal on the keyboard and select where you want the total from. You get the answer. Average. Now, if we go to the Home tab, in the editing group, we have auto sum. If we click on this pull down, it will auto sum, or it is the most basic function here. And we got sum, average, count numbers, max, minimum. So if we click on average, it will automatically put in the average formula and forget about what's in there. Simply select column G, press enter. You have the average, highest salary, and you have already guessed max. Press enter. I got it. And minimum salary, lowest salary, minimum. And over here, we get the answer. So what we are doing here, we don't need to even have to type anything. We're just taking the advantage of those 5 ready-made formulas here. Most common formulas that are used, also available on the Home tab in the ribbon in the editing group. We can simply select it and select where the range is. We don't need to give a range specifically to 742. We can select entire column G. And once you do, you also need to make sure you don't put any random values here, because ultimately that will add the total onto there. So you must know your data well in advance, uh, and you want to make sure that you keep it that way. So, and the list grows or shrink. You don't have to worry about your formulas. They happen. They adjust these totals automatically. So these are simple, viable tools to simplify the look of the formulas and also their creation. And how do you know this number is right? Simply select column G. You got the same total, max, minimum, average. In this chapter, we got a worksheet called Convert Formulas to Values. Column A has some problems. We got some leading space. We got some trailing space. Now, maybe we have copied this formulas, these names from somewhere. And what we have also copied along with the names, the leading space. Now, leading space is something that you can see, but trailing space, you cannot see that. We got some trailing spaces as well. Now, when you use a space in a formula, when there's an empty space in a formula, you can have some unusual results. And before we actually use it, we want to get rid of these empty spaces, and we want to remove these spaces from there and make sure these names are correct. And maybe these are capital letters, small letters, but they should be proper. So what we can do, we can use a formula here called trim. We can use formula here, trim. Which text do we want to trim? This text. We want to trim this text. So we want to remove all the unnecessary spaces, leading spaces, trailing spaces from this text. And we press enter, and we got the result. So it has removed all those spaces from column A. And in Excel, we type formula only once and then we copy that. And here we go at the very bottom. We got all the names there. And now we don't need column A. We got employee names all here. Can I go and delete column A? If I delete it, see what happens. We got all those errors here, reference errors. Now reference error means that it is finding information. It is trying to locate information that does not exist. Thank God we have an undo button here. So let's undo that. So before we copy those, before we remove column A, we need to convert these formulas. Now, what is there in column B? These are all formulas. You see them as a text, but are they text? No, they are result of the formulas. Now we would like to convert these names, these formulas into values. So what we need to do is we need to select column B here with the mouse. If you're using an external mouse, with the mouse, select column B. Move your mouse cursor to any edge, not to the top corner, not to the left corner or right corner, to the edge. Now, these are the edges. To move to any edge, you'll see 4 arrows. So with the right mouse button, not the left mouse button that you click, the right mouse button, the other button, the right mouse button, drag it to the next column. Don't leave the mouse and then bring it back to column B. Don't leave the mouse until I tell you to. Keep pressing it, keep holding it down. And now when it's back, leave the mouse and you'll get here, copy here, move here, copy here as values. Click on copy here as values. And that's it. Now you have all the formulas converted into values. Now can I delete column A? I don't need that anymore. Yes, we can. And we only have those names here. And let's undo that. Now, this is something that if you can use if you are using an external mouse. But what if I don't use external mouse? What if you use only keyboard? So if you're using a keyboard, select column B, then press Ctrl C, then press Ctrl V, then press Ctrl once, and then press V as in Victor. It will convert all those formulas into values. Let me type it in here. The sequence Control C, then Control V, then Control, and then V. Now this plus doesn't mean that you need to press the plus button there. It's just that both the combinations to be pressed. Control C and Control V, then Control V in this order only. So press all these buttons here. It will convert all those formulas into values. It will drop off the formulas, keep those values here. So we have all those values. Let's undo that. Not that, undo. We have those formulas here. We want to delete those formulas. We want to keep the column A, the values in column A. And again, the another method that you can use is you can copy this, click on copy in the ribbon, and then click on pull down menu of paste. We got 2 buttons here, paste upper, paste bottom. Click on paste, and then we got 3 groups here, paste, paste values, other paste options. In the paste values, click on values. It will automatically remove the formulas and paste the values totally. So we have 3 different ways to use. And when you're done, you can simply delete column A. We don't need that anymore. And we are back here. Our data is nice, neat and clean. No leading space, no trailing space.
Sharath, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Sharath, here we can see that we have removed all the extra spaces, but here the format is like last name is written first and first name is written in the last. So can we transpose it?
Transpose will not transpose the first name to last name. It will transpose the text from rows to columns.
Okay.
If I transpose this, if I copy this, and if I transpose this, it will transpose the text to different columns, not first name to last name. To use that trick that we learned in the yesterday,
Okay.
flash fill or text to columns, separate those first name, last name, and then combine them
Then,
together.
okay. Yes, yes.
You may want to use concatenate, text join, and %.
Yes, yes, got it. Thank you.
In this sheet, we have these sales figure for 6 months for a couple of regions here. Now, after careful analysis of these numbers, we realize that all these values are short by 10. All of them. Now we may have 6 values or 30 values here, or we may have 300 or 3000 or 5000 values here, or 10,000 values that are short by 10. Now, how do I increase all the values by 10? Maybe I want these values should be 60, 52, 60, 45, 49, 60, 53, 48. Doing this manually, yes, you can do it, nothing wrong with it, but it will take you several hours. Maybe these are 30 items here. Maybe you have 300 items or 30,000 items there to work on. You can do it manually, of course, but it will take several hours of your time. So you may consider writing some formulas here that add the total. Yes, you can do it, nothing wrong with it. You can put some formulas here, and that will take the value from this, and you can create new totals. Certainly you can do that. But what if I tell you that we can increase all those values by 10 without any formula? So we need to increase all these values by 10. So we write 10 somewhere, and then we copy it. So I press Ctrl C to copy, and then select where you want to paste it. So I want to paste all over here in these cells, in these 30 cells. Now let's go to the Home tab. In the paste, the bottom paste, not the top paste. In the bottom paste, click on that, and then click on Paste Special. Remember, you can add this to Quick Access toolbar also. Click on Paste Special, and over here in the Operations section, click on Add, and then click OK. Keep an eye on these numbers. They're all increased by 10. I don't need this 10 anymore. You can simply delete it. And we have increased all those values by 10. Without any formula. I've not used any formula at all. Later we realized that, okay, we need to increase those values only by 5, not by 10. So what we do, we write 5. And then we copy it. We selected it. Go back to Paste Special. I don't need to click here because I already have this in Quick Access toolbar. Subtract. Click OK. I've subtracted the 5 number from all these values. No formulas required.
Sharad, can we increase, decrease by percentage as well?
Yeah, coming to that, Kishore. So over here now, because you have asked it, so let's discuss it. So help me understand. Now all these values here are short by 10%. All these values here are short by 10%. Now we need to increase those values by 10%, which means that 60 needs to be 66, and then 40 needs to be 44, and some other. So all these values need to increase by 10%. How do we do that? Do we write 10% here? That's the exact question you have, Kishore. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we need to increase these values by 10%. So we copy it. And we go to Paste Special. And then what? We select it. Go to Paste Special. Then what do we do? We need to increase all these values by 10%. So I'll simply type 1.1 here. 10% is what? 1.1. So we copy this. And we select the data here. Go to paste special, multiply, and then click OK. All these values have increased by 10%. Right, Kishore?
Yes, got it. Thanks.
So all the values have been increased by 10% here. And we want to decrease it by 10%. We can certainly do that. Whatever percentage you want, you can add, subtract, multiply, divide these operations here. Remember, copy this, and then you can click on paste special. You have add, subtract, multiply, divide, and you got various other options as well. Formulas, paste what formula you want to paste. You want to paste the value, formats, comments, validation, source theme, all except borders, column width. It's you have the time to explore these options. Skip blanks, transpose. So we got potential huge options here, and you can see you can explore these options here to see how this works. In this chapter, we are looking at a worksheet called Debug Formulas. Now, sometimes Excel formulas doesn't give you the result that you want. Oh yeah, that happens. Let's imagine you're working on this worksheet for a while and you got few things figured out. You see that, okay, there's a formula in B3, there's formula is D13, and that has been a problem. You know that this number is not right. Maybe based on your gut feeling or some kind of other analysis that you've done, you're trying to figure out what's going on here. Now, you can edit a cell. You see that there's a formula here. Let me double click it. Let me put a lighter color so we can see the text through it. Yeah. So we know that this formula is not right here. Now, before you start to edit this formula, it is strongly suggested that you zoom in a bit so we can see this formula very clearly. Although it's not necessary on this occasion only. Now this is the formula, which is doing some multiplication, dividing, taking some average and all that, whatever it's doing. Now, it has been clear to you that this formula is not giving the correct result. Maybe you know the calculation is not right, so maybe you highlight it. So in whatever the reason is, this answer is not right. So you may want to understand what's going on here, step by step. So we can debug the formulas. We can edit the formula. We can get the result of the formula portion by portion. How do we debug the formula? We select this area first. We want to solve B7 into B3. And when you select this, press F9 on the keyboard. I'm pressing F9. Okay, it doesn't give me anything. Let me press function F9 and give me the answer here. So it says that, okay, if you multiply this, you get this answer. And if that's not right, you say what? Aha, here is the problem. And so you can know. Now, when you find out, okay, yes, this is the problem, to come out of it, do not press enter key on the keyboard. If you press enter, it will wipe out the formula and will keep the result. Press escape key always. Now, what happens if you press this enter key, let's say, and you say, no, that value is right. And if you divide that by 12,000 and you press function F9 and say 309, this is the problem. Now, if you press enter, see what happens. You still get the answer, but if I go back here, I've destroyed the formula. But thank God I have an undo button here. We can make some mistakes. So you can debug portion by portion. Now, if you say, OK, let's debug this one, I press function F9. This is the problem. Let's escape key again. What is the average of these numbers? Function F9, 162. That seems to be right. If I multiply this by 0.505, you say what? It gives you an answer. And you say, oh, this needs to be 0.005, not 0.05. And you can come back and change the result here, 0.005. And you can get the answer. Quite a small change. But yes, can be indifferent sometimes. Now, this is a number function. This function is giving you some numbers, so you can see those numbers. You can see, okay, yes, that is happening, that is not happening. That seems okay, that seems doesn't okay. But there could be formulas that are based on logics. Now, that will not give you a number here if your formula is based on logic. That will give you true or false. Over to cell R1, I've got a formula here. It's a logical function. Let me zoom in a bit. How about this one? And let me double click on this. Now, this is a if function. And you necessarily don't need to know what's going on here because we will be covering this in the next chapter. But for now, let's understand how do we debug this. And you say that, OK, we have used this function. This value should be 0. It should not be 1. Based on whatever your gut feeling you have, this value should be 0. But how do we debug this? It's all if and do big and do small. So we will be debugging this portion by portion. Now let's check out this. How about this one? And you say, OK, this, and you press function F9. It says false, and you might say, OK, this should be true. Because you have created the formula, you would know that. Now you might say, OK, I don't know. But if you create this formula, you would know this answer should be yes or no. And you might say, OK, let's move on. And you select this one and you press F9. And if you select incorrect parentheses, incorrect portion of the formula, you will see this formula is missing opening or closing parentheses, some other kind of error that can also come up. Let's check out if and this one and too big. Let's see if we get any result here. There's a problem. Not trying to type a formula with the first character, so you need to select the correct portion of the formula in order to get the result. If let's check out this. Again, same thing, same general idea. How about this one? False. How about this one? False. And F9, false. How about this one? It will say false. How about this one? It will say false again. How about this? True. So you can debug these formulas portion by portion. And if you think that this is not easy, you got an automatic formula debugger in the formulas tab. If you go to evaluate formula, click on that. it will automatically debug the formula. Same thing, portion by portion. And you click on evaluate and it is giving 5 is less than equal. It will also show the result. 5 is less than is equal to 24. It is true. It is true. It is false. So you can do it portion by portion and it will automatically give you the result. What are you trying to achieve here? And the answer should be 1. So you can certainly debug those formulas easily. When you feel that the Excel is not giving you the right answer, it should be something else, but it's not giving us the right answer. And it can happen. It can give you wrong answers. Nothing wrong. Don't get surprised if you get wrong answer. It can happen, possibly. So I think you can see in any number of different situations how debugging capability while editing, highlighting portions of the data or the formula, pressing F9 key or going into the formulas tab, evaluate formulas that you can use to evaluate the portion formula and then proceed from there. And this is not the feature that you use all the time. Debug formulas. Sometimes formulas are difficult to figure out what's going on. Now, you can make them easy if you name a cell or group of cells. Sometimes that makes the formula easier to read and provide a better worksheet documentation. In this worksheet called Use Range Names, we are about to write a formula in cell I2. In this worksheet called Range Names, everybody is about to get a bonus of 2.91%, and that's in cell K1 based on the compensation that we see in column G. Now, standard way that we have learned in the previous chapters is to do what? Is to write the formula equal this compensation multiply by this, and we make it absolute. Remember, function F4, and then plus the old compensation and press enter. We get the answer. Let me zoom in a bit. Right. And then in Excel, we type formula only once and then we copy that. We can certainly do it, nothing wrong with it. And that's true. That's right. But what if we say that, OK, we give a name to cell K1. We can also write this formula in a different way by giving a name to a K1 cell. Would that be easier to read? Well, that might be. Nothing too terrible or complex about this formula. There could be a complete formula right there, but let's reconsider this. Let's remove everything in column I2. Now, there are a couple of ways to give a name to the formula or to the cell. The standard way is quite long. We go to the formulas tab and we go to define name and we can give a name to the cell. But I'll tell you the easiest way, a faster way. Select cell K1 and go to the name box just below the ribbon. Click on the name box and type it in the name that you want to give. Remember, there are certain rules to give a name to the cell. Name cannot start with a number. It cannot contain any space. It cannot contain any special character. it cannot look like a cell address. You can use underscore, that's it. So I'm going to give it a name, percentage increase. I'll type in PCT underscore INC and I press enter. Now I don't have a cell K1 in this worksheet. I have J1, I have PCT increase, and I have L1. I have K2, but I don't have a K1. There's no K1 in this worksheet. So we'll be typing the formula again. Equal old salary multiply by. Now instead of K1, I can simply type it in because I just gave it a name, percentage increase. So I'll type it in PCT and it will automatically pick up that reference here, PCT increase. I'll take it plus this old compensation and press enter. No, I don't need to use absolute because range name is an absolute address. And we'll simply copy this down. We got all the compensation increased. Everywhere you'll see it will be percentage increase. A range name is an absolute address. So you don't need to use dollar symbols anywhere. You give a name, it will happen everywhere. Or at the bottom, percentage increase. So forget about using those dollar symbols. Start using those range names now. And let's say you have given a lot of range names in the worksheet. You don't know what name you gave it to this cell. Is there a way to find out? Yes. So we go to G2, multiply by. Now I don't know the name. I don't remember the name. Press F3 on the keyboard or function F3 on the keyboard. It will give you all the names that range names that you have created. We just created percentage increase. We click on that. It will automatically pick it up. Plus G2 and press enter. We'll get the answer. Same general idea. Range names are very powerful. They are absolute addresses. Over here, we got 6 months of data for 12-year period of data for 6 states or 5 states here. So we want to do a total of all of them. So can I give a range name to all of these cells? Yes, we can. Let's select all this data here. Maybe this is H1 sales. So I'll simply type it here, maybe first half sales. I'll type here first half sales, enter. And over here, I'll select it and type second half sales. And I press enter. Now we can add both of those. I don't need to select all of those, make them absolute. We can certainly do that, but we don't really need to because all these sales, all these figures are actually first half sales. Now I'm not given a range name to a particular cell, but to the range of cells. So I want to sum here, I press Alt equal, and I forget about what's in there. I'll simply remove it. And then I type in first, and here it is at the bottom, you see. First half sales, and I select that, comma, second half sales. I put in second half sales, and you press enter. And they have already been selected, and you are going to see what's going to happen now. Press enter. It gave me the exact total. Do I need to use absolute? Absolutely not. So we got a range names. We can simply use those range names, and it also provides a better worksheet documentation. Imagine a newcomer started to think about searching for this formula. What kind of formula is this? I've never seen this formula here. What is this formula? Percentage increase. That formula I've never seen. So it also provides a better worksheet documentation, and ultimately this is very, very helpful here. Maybe for documentation purpose, you want to give a list of all the range names that you have created. Come down, maybe make sure that you have at least 2 columns empty and a couple of rows empty below. And how do I know what range names that we have created? In the Formulas tab, in Define Names, click on Use in Formulas, click on, and there you have all the range names that you have created. And also you have a paste name. Click on Paste Name, click on Paste List. It will paste all the range names that are there in the worksheet. It will show you all of them. And you can maybe provide a better worksheet documentation, use the range names, and also it enhances the readability. You don't need to use absolute addresses. Those ages are gone now, dollar symbols. You can say goodbye to that and start using these range names. Question?
So, Sarath, can we remove these names as well?
Yep.
So, how to remove?
Good question. To remove these names, go to Name Manager. You'll have all the names that you have created, range names. And over here, let's say you want to remove. I'd created several of those, but let's remove these DVD drives, CD drives. Let's select this. I don't need them. Simply select them, delete. They're all gone. Simply delete them. Close it. And now it has started giving me an error because the range name doesn't exist. It is taking value from PCT_INC, but where it is K1. I've removed them. Right. I hope that answers.
Yes, yes. Thank you, sir. So basically, if we have used any reference range name or cell name in any formula, then obviously we will not remove them.
Yes. But I think you should, it's more useful to, instead of using those dollar symbols, use a range name. It looks, it has got a lot of advantages. You don't need to worry about those dollar symbols, absolute addresses. It provides a better worksheet documentation. It looks professional too.
Yes, yes, that's true.
People often ask me, you taught that dollar symbols, use the absolute, and now you're saying that don't use that. There are several things, several chapters that we'll be covering, in which I myself will tell you, okay, stop using that one. First, I'll have to teach you that the old thing and then the new thing, and then ask you to stop that. Don't worry on the range names. We'll be stopping that soon too. So
Okay.
there's more better things than range names that we can use. And we will cover that in the future, in the upcoming chapters. But for now, use range names wherever necessary. At least start building that habit. We are selling furnitures in 7 states. 7 state furniture sales. We are selling it to Assam, Goa, Gujarat, Haryana, Himachal, Jharkhand, Karnataka. I've got a sheet 2 and sheet 1 here. Blank sheets. Now, we want to create a summary sheet here. Now, we've done that in the past. We have all these sheets here. We want to create a summary sheet of all those 7 states here. And if you notice, all the sheets are almost identical, other than just the numbers. The format of all the states are the same. We want to create a summary sheet. We can do it in sheet 2, nothing wrong with it. We can copy the format from here and we can paste it here, and then we can put some formulas there. Can we do it? Yes, we can. Should we do it? Is this the best way to do? Probably no. You can go here and you can copy this sheet. You can go to sheet 2. You can paste it. You can rename it. Yes, you can do that. But there are better ways to do. Let me delete those both the sheets, not required. We got these 7 sheets. I need us to create a summary sheet. Let's copy any of the sheet and bring it to the very top, drag it with the Control key down. And it will create it will create a copy of that sheet. Let's rename this to summary. And I'll rename it here as well, summary. Maybe I'll change the tab color. How about this one? Some other color. So we have this summary sheet here. Now I would like to remove the numbers or the formulas or the numbers. So I select all, go to find and select, go to special, constants, numbers. These 2 cells were selected, so I'll select one of the cell. Go to special, constants, numbers. Okay, so all these are the numbers. I have selected all these numbers here purposely, so we can get rid of those. I don't want to destroy the formulas. So we selected the numbers. I'll press delete key on the keyboard. Numbers are all gone. Don't worry on these errors that you're looking at. We can simply hide those errors as well. But once we put in the values, these formulas will automatically get the values there. The formulas are still working, even though there's nothing. Why are you getting this div 0? Because you're trying to divide something by 0. So you're getting div 0. That's an error. You can't divide anything by 0. So we are getting that error. So don't worry on that one. We have a dedicated chapter on errors in Excel. So we'll cover it over there. So we want a summary of all these couches of all these 7 states. So we can simply go to equal Assam couches plus Goa couches plus Gujarat couches plus Haryana couches plus Himachal couches plus Jharkhand couches, whereas Karnataka couches, no more plus. Press enter, you get the answer. I'm glad we are not selling in entire India. We are selling only in 7 states. So had we been selling in entire India, I would have to do it almost 30 times, 29 times, 28 times. So we can get the answer here, but is this the best way to do it? Probably no. So what other thing we can do? Because all the sheets are identical, we can create a group of those sheets. Let's delete that. And press Alt equal on the keyboard. Excel will automatically put in the formulas. Sum. Alt equal means sum. And then we go to Assam sheet or Karnataka sheet in either direction. And then press and hold the Shift key on the keyboard. The formula is still on. Press and hold the Shift key first. Press and hold the Shift key and then select the last sheet. Now you see all the colors of the sheets have changed. Then we select where we want to pick the number from. And over here in the formula tab, you see sum Assam to Karnataka, and it's waiting for the cell reference, this cell B4. I press enter, we get the answer, same answer, but a much shorter formula. And in Excel, the basic rule of thumb, we type formula only once, and then we copy that. And we got the answer, entire sheet build up. There are a lot of advantages of keeping the sheet identical if you're working on Same kind of data for different regions, different states, different countries, different zones, different days, different months, different weeks. Try and keep identical uh, sheets. Create one sheet in anything that you do in Excel. You create one thing and then you copy that to many cells, many sheets. Rightward, downward, leftward. We got to create it as summary sheet. Now connecting these different sheets together is called as a 3-day formulas. So we connecting different sheets, creating a 3-dimensional formula. Maybe we got 12 sheets, 13 sheets, 50 sheets, different sheet for each month of the year, and then a total, or doing something like this on the quarterly basis, as we see one of the geographical basis here. A very viable tool to collect data from multiple sheets. One of the Excel's most powerful function is called the if function. At times, several times, it can be used in a programming-like way. In this worksheet called Simple If, we are about to use in a very simple, direct, straightforward way. We are in this chapter 2, if function. In cell I2, we are going to be providing a bonus to the people who have a good job rating, 4 or 5. Now, what we are trying to take a look at here is a way to provide one or the two different answers. In very complex scenarios, we may provide multiple answers, maybe 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13 different answers. Let's start with a very simple idea. If the job rating is 4 or 5, you'll get a bonus of 5,000. Otherwise, nothing. So we'll be checking in I2. We'll put a formula in I2 that will check for the value in H2. If that value is 4 or 5, we will get the result in I2 5,000. Otherwise, nothing. Since I'm not going to use so many columns here, column A, B, C, I'm going to hide them. And on this occasion only, although not necessary, I'm going to make this column I wider and zoom in a bit so you can see this formula very clearly. Let's increase the row height as well. Over here. And we are going to type in the formula here. Equal if. Now, whenever you start to type a formula, it will give you a balloon tip to tell you what that formula is going to do. It says checks whether a condition is met and returns one value if true. If the condition is true, it will give you one value and another value if the condition is false. And that's exactly what we want to do. Now, every formula has these parameters. Now, to activate a formula, you either double click on the formula or you press the tab key on the keyboard. I'll double click. Now, when you double click the formula, you are activating the formula. It will automatically be capitalized. Now, every formula has parameters or arguments. And the current argument that you're on is highlighted bold in color. Now we are on the first argument, which is called logical test, or the first parameter, which is the logical test. To move to the next parameter, you use commas. So I press comma. Now, which argument is highlighted? Value if true. If I press another comma, it will move to the third parameter. Value if false. So it will check the values, the answers for these parameters. Remember, parameter is the name of the game. You understand those parameters, you understand all the 500 functions in the Excel. And throughout this course, we will be focusing on the parameters. And we move to the next parameter by pressing comma. And these values, these logical tests, whatever the values that we have there in parameters, these values can come from different ideas. The first is you can type the value. If the value is true, what the value is, we can type it in. We can give a reference to a different cell that has the value. We can suddenly do that. Or we can also use a different function that can give us the answer. Let's say if I want the value to be true is 5,000, I can type 5,000 here, right? I can type 5,000 in J1 and tell him that, OK, you take the value from J1 because J1 contains 5,000. Or I can use another function, maybe 4,000 plus 1,000. That can also give us the answer, or maybe some other function that can give us the 5,000 answer. So these values for the parameters can come from different locations, different ways. Ultimately, functions or formulas are not concerned where you are getting the value from. They're only concerned about the value. You type it in, you give it a reference, you put another formula that gets the value. Excel is not concerned about that. Let's start with the idea here. Let's bring back this organization that we work for has said that if your job rating is 4 or 5, it's 4 or 5, you're going to get a bonus of 5,000, otherwise nothing. So based on this company's requirement and conditions, company says if the job rating, where is the job rating? In H2. If the job rating in H2 is 4 or 5 is equal to 4 or 5, or I can either say greater than 4, greater than or equal to 4 or 5, or I can simply say greater than 3. I'll do the list typing. If the job rating is greater than 3, which means that it can be either 4 or 5. See, the parameter that you're working on still, it's highlighted in bold. If the job rating in H2, now we are saying job rating, but Excel is not concerned about job rating. Excel says, OK, if H2 is greater than 3, which means that it can be 4, 5, and whatever. If this cell, if this test, this is what we're testing, check. If H2 is greater than 3, what is the value? You give me the answer 5,000. Otherwise, nothing. For nothing, I'll simply put double quotes and close the parentheses. Although it's not necessary, Excel will do that for us. I'll simply press enter. Now this job rating is 3, and you know what answer we're going to see. We're going to see nothing. And press enter. You don't see anything. And in Excel, basic rule of thumb, we type formula only once. We got the answer here, 5,000.
Sharath, instead of putting a blank like in the double quotes, can we put something? Is that also, can we get display?
Yes, coming to that. Coming to that, Harish.
Thanks.
So we see 5,000 here. Now this formula is very dynamic in nature. If the job rating changes to 4, it will show 5,000. If this job rating changes to 3, it will go away. So it's pretty much live. It's real time. Now, if we check the total here, a company is spending around 14,80,000 here. And company says, OK, we are OK to spend 5,100 or 5,200. And you write here 5,200 somewhere. And over here, if we edit the formula, instead of writing 5,000, like I said, we can give a cell reference, remember? So I go to K1. Maybe I want to make it absolute if I want to copy this down. So I'll simply put dollar symbols there. Well, you need to do the range name thing. You press enter. Of course, now what we're going to see here is 5,200 because it's taking the value from there. Our company is now spending 15,39,000. And why do we have blanks here? We can simply type. They are not getting any bonus. We can type in no bonus. You can type in double quotes anything that you want. No bonus. I press enter. We'll have no bonus here. and you copy this down, you'll have no bonus. And let's unzoom that. Let's bring it back. You still have the total. And the idea here is if you later company decided, OK, we want to pay 5,100 and keep an eye on this formula, all the values will change to 5,100. I don't have to retype the formula again. Now over here, we have typed the formula in about 700 rows of data in just a matter of seconds. So it's a simple to use, straightforward way of using if function. If the condition is true, we got one answer. If the condition is not true, we got another answer. Condition is true, we are getting the answer from a cell reference here. Let me expose this formula for you. Let me zoom in a bit again. Equal, and we got the. Here is what the formula looks like. You can keep it blank, you can leave it, you can type in whatever, you can put another number, you can give it reference, either ways. Sometimes with the if function, you need to have multiple answers, maybe 3 answers, 4 answers, not just a simple 2 answer. And we do this by using a feature called nested if, an if inside of an if. Now in this worksheet, in cell I2, we need a formula here that is going to give a bonus to the people who have a higher job rating, but also a different kind of a bonus who have a less than high job rating. So a new rule based on this company's need or requirement is to say the following: if the job rating is 4 or 5, they're going to get a bonus of 5,000. But if the job rating is not good, let's say if the job rating is not good, we are going to give a bonus of, if the job rating is 3, we're going to give a bonus of maybe 3,000. So based on this argument, based on this company's requirement, although not necessary, I'm not going to use so many columns. I'm going to hide these columns here. And I'm going to make this column wider, zooming a bit. And I'll increase the column row height. And we're going to put a formula here. And this company says, if, what are we testing? If this job rating is greater than 3, which means it's 4 or 5, they're going to get a bonus of 5,000. Otherwise, for those who are getting a job rating of 3, they're going to get a bonus of 3,000. So what we want to do is we want to check again. What is the value? So in order to check again, what if false? If this is not true, if this condition is not true, you check again, which means that another if. You check again, if this is equal to 3, you give a bonus of what? 3,000. Otherwise, close it. And you close it again. So if the condition is true, we are getting 5,000. If the condition is not true, we are giving 3,000. And we press enter, and we're going to see 3,000 here. And in Excel, we type formula only once, and then we copy that. So why we are getting false? Because it's this is not, we don't have any answer here. So let me expose this formula for you. So over here, we are giving 2 different answers. If the condition is met, we're giving 5,000. If it's not met, if the value is false, we check again. If it's 3, we're giving them 3,000. Otherwise, leave them. Now the inner if over here needs to have a closing parentheses. And we can also put in maybe closing parentheses here. 3,000, or what if the value is false? We can type it in no bonus and we can close this bracket. I'll press enter. 3,000. Now we can copy that down. We're going to get no bonus here. So let's expose this formula again. So what are we saying here? If this is greater than 3, which means 4 or 5, you're going to give 5,000. Otherwise, check again. If it is 3,000, give them. If it is 3, give them 3,000. Otherwise, for everything else, you don't give anything at all. You can also choose to leave it blank if you want to, but I think no bonus makes much better sense. Now we are getting 3 different answers. We're getting 5,000, we're getting 3,000, we're getting no bonus. 3 different answers are here. Now, and the more you work with this, the easier they will become. Now, I'm not making a very strong case here that if function or nested if will solve all of your problems. No, that's not going to happen. At some point, the more the nested if, the more awkward or difficult the situation becomes. Now, this company has changed its mind again. Now, remember, this column doesn't need to be as wider. Now, this company has says that these people who have a job rating of 2, probably they don't deserve a bonus. We are only going to give them a token of 500. So where does it happen? It happens right there in this formula. So if the job rating is more than 3, we are going to give them 5,000. If it is 3, we are going to give them 3,000. Otherwise, I'll remove this one. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, you check again. If this is equal to 2, then what? Then give them maybe how much? 500. Otherwise, nothing, maybe no bonus. I'll type in no bonus and double quotes to close. And now we need to have 3 parentheses. Now remember, all these parentheses are color coded. So to make it easier for you to understand, 1, 2, and then 3. And we press enter over here. Now we are going to see these values changed. Over here, we get 500. We also have a no bonus here for job rating 1. I'm going to unzoom it so you can see that clearly. Now this is also very dynamic. Let me make this 1 here. So you can see all these answers here. 3,500, 5,000, no bonus. Now, in older version of Excel, you can maximum use 7 nested ifs. So how many we used so far? We used 1, 2. In older versions of Excel, you could use only 7 nested ifs. But starting Excel 2007, believe it or not, you can use it up to 64 levels. If inside of an if, inside of an if, 64 times. Now I can't imagine going that far, but you can potentially see the usage of this, the limit of this, and nested if inside an if, inside of an if, inside of an if. Now it is always recommended when you work with formulas, zoom in a bit, make the column wider, use the slider bar at the very bottom here. Let me expose this formula for you. Press enter. Use this slider bar, or if you're using an external mouse, use the mouse wheel with the control key. Press and hold the control key. Use the mouse wheel to make this larger and clear on the screen. So you can see these formula, how this works, and you can keep on adding conditions one by one and one. So very powerful tool as we expand the functionality of the if function with nested ifs. Sometimes when you're using a function, you need to check for multiple conditions. In fact, in other words, the logical test, the first portion, the first argument, you need to expand that. This organization has decided to give a bonus to people who have a good job rating, 4 or 5. But they should be full-time. So the two conditions company has laid down based on their need. First, the job rating should be 4 or 5. Second, they should be full-time employee. So two conditions must be met in order to get a bonus of 5,000. So we are about to use the function and along with if. A companion function is called or, and very less likely use the function called not. We will see examples of all three of them. And again, since I'm not going to use column A, B, C, D, I'm going to hide them. And I'm going to make this column I wider, although it's not necessary on this occasion only. I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see those functions clearly. I make this row taller. Equal if. The logical test is the first portion that needs to be expanded. Now, two conditions must be fulfilled. First, the job rating has to be 4 or 5, and the status should be full time. So we are going to use the and along with if. And the job rating. Where is the job rating? Over here. This should be 4 or 5, should be greater than 3. And now we can add logics here. Inside of a function. Now we are not in if function. So if I remove this, we are in if function. Keep an eye on these arguments. Now if I put in an and function here, keep an eye on these arguments. I'm in and function now. I'm not in if function at all. So in and function, I'm putting logics for the and function. And job rating should be greater than 3. And so now we can add more logics here. First this and then this status in F2 should be equal to full time. Now it doesn't have to match the case. It can be all caps, all small, either ways. This status should be full time. And we can add more logics. And remember, you can add up to 126 logics here. You keep pressing plus, comma, it will keep on adding logics. And ultimately, it's never ending. You can keep on adding those logics. Keep pressing comma and add the logics here. So we will add only 2 of them right now. First, the job rating should be 4 or 5, and the status in F2 should be full time. If those two conditions are met, then we come out when we need to come out of and function. And how do we come out? We put the parentheses. Now we are back to a function. Now this argument that we wrote is a part of logical test. This is what we are testing. This is the only thing that we're testing. Now, if this argument met, then we get what? Then we get a value of, then we get an answer, 5,000. Otherwise, no bonus. And we close the bracket. We have completed the function. We press enter. We get no bonus. And we in Excel, we type formula only once, and then we copy that down. At the bottom, we see if the condition, now this is job rating 4 and a full time, he's getting a bonus. This is job rating 4 and a contract, it's not getting a bonus. And if I select column I can see companies only spending 6 lakh. And this is also very dynamic in nature. Again, you can make this column wider, this row taller. Now, this was not a very popular decision of the company. The company had a lot of protest. Employees were not happy because most of these employees are not getting any bonus. Only few of them are getting bonus. Here's the job rating is 5, not getting any bonus because he's a half time. Here's job rating is 5, full time, he's getting the bonus yet. So again, a lot of potential candidates are not getting the bonus. And of course, that makes sense why the employees were protesting. So this company had to change its mind again. This time, company says, okay, you can either have a job rating of 4 or 5, or you're a full time. We will give you the bonus. In other words, company says either you have a job rating of good job rating, or you're a full time. We will give you the bonus. And I think that's going to be more popular decision. So instead of and, we'll simply replace this and by or. Now it checks either one of those conditions, not both those conditions. And will check to fulfill both the conditions, or will check either one of those conditions. And remember, you can add 227 conditions in there. So either the job rating is 4 or 5, or the status is full time, you will get the bonus. So over here, you're going to see what's going to happen in JI2. They are going to get a bonus of 5,000 because not because of the job rating, but because of this the status, because the condition says you can have either one of it. And then we copy it many cell downwards, double click. And a lot of people are now getting the bonus from 6,30,000 to 2 lakh. How much? 27 lakh. The company is paying too much. And I'll unzoom it. And a lot of people are getting the bonus. Even the job rating 2 is getting a bonus. Wow. Over here, job rating 1 still getting the bonus because he's a full time. So a lot of people were getting the bonus in this, and it was very popular decision. So what we are saying is we are saying either the condition is true out of all the possibilities, we are getting the answer. So company has decided if you got a good job rating, we don't care what your status is. We'll give you the bonus. Or you got a full time, we will give you the bonus no matter what your job rating is. So if that is true or that is true, either one of it, you will get the bonus. Now company has changed its mind again because company was paying way too much to the employees. Now this company has changed its mind again and said that the following. If your job rating is not good enough, we will still give you the bonus. If your status is full time and the number of years you have spent in the organization should be greater than 7. Now again, one more condition. Now this time, understand carefully. It's not a simple condition. It says, company says, this organization says that if you got a good job rating, we'll give you the bonus, no matter what. But if your job rating is not good, we will still give you the bonus if you are a full-time employee with more than 7 years of experience. First condition, your job rating is good. No matter what your status is, you will get the bonus. Second condition, if your job rating is not good, but your status is full time and your number of years is more than 7, you will get the bonus. So a lot of conditions need to be fulfilled here. So let's change it in a different way. Let me remove this over here. Let's come back. Equal. Let's start equal if the first condition is or. So if you got a good job rating, you will get the bonus, right? So or this job rating is greater than 3, you will get the bonus. And what is the second logic? The company says the second logic is if your status is full time and your number of years is more than 7, which means the second logic needs an and. So in the second logic, we'll put an and. We are still in or function. Remember, we are not in or. We are putting the and in the second logic of the or function. Now this value of logical 2 is coming from the and function. And the status in F2 should be full time. Now we are in and function now, out of or function. And I double quote. And the second logic is the number of years is greater than what 7 or 6 or what 7. Now we'll close the bracket, then we will come out of and function. Now we are still in and function. I'll close the bracket here. Now I'm back to or function. Now if all these conditions are fulfilled, and you know what, they'll get a bonus of what? And then put another bracket here to come out of or function. Now I'm back to if function. Now, if all these conditions are met, you get a bonus of 5,000, 5,000. Otherwise, a bonus. And you close the bracket here, press enter. I get a 5,000. Why we're getting 5,000? His job rating is 3, but he's a full time with 8 years of service. And in Excel, we type formula only once and then we copy it. And over here we see 5,000, 5,000. Over here, let's check it out. Some more examples. Here the job rating is 3, still getting the bonus. If your job rating is 4 or 5, no matter what your rating is, you will get the bonus. His job rating is 4, he's getting the bonus. He's a contract 4 years, he's getting the bonus. So let me expose this formula for you. If or function. Now closing parentheses are pretty important in order to decide, in order to come out of those functions. We are using or function and function together. We are nesting those functions within an if function. And we can have multiple ifs here as well. Now, what are we saying here now? You will get the bonus automatically if your job rating is 4 or 5. And we see that happening here in a number of cases. But if you don't have a job rating of 4 or 5, you will still get the bonus because the second part of the structure of the formula says you will get a bonus if you are a full time and have more than 7 years of experience. They are also going to get the bonus regardless of the possibility of a bad job rating. So where is it happening? It's happening right there. Now you can use or and functions together. Now it is not there to increase the complexity or complexity, but to be able to cover the all the scenarios. Now the word not can also be used in certain cases. Now I tend to stay away from using the not function. But because it makes this function harder to read. Let's select here. How much company is paying now? 22,40,000 here. And also this was not a popular decision because some of the employees were not happy. Company earned a lot of money. So this company changed its mind again. Company says the following. We just don't give bonus to hourly people. We will give bonus to everybody else. We will not give bonus to hourly people. We will give bonus to everyone else. Let's remove this and let's do it in a different way now. I'm going to select all of them, delete it. Company says we'll not give bonus to hourly people, but we'll give bonus to everyone else. So if your status is not hourly, you will get the bonus, so which means that equal if, and you have already guessed if your status is not what, your status is hourly. Equal hourly. It doesn't have to match the case. And close the bracket. If your status is not hourly, what do? You get a bonus of 5,000. Otherwise, no bonus. Close the bracket. And by the way, upper lower case, again, not too critical. You can have all uppercase, you can have all lowercase, and press enter. It's full time. It's getting a bonus. Job rating doesn't matter here. And now everybody else is getting bonus, but not those hourly people. So this is another way to use it. And again, a lot of people find this strange. That will work here. So everybody is getting the bonus except someone who is hourly. So every time we see a blank here, we see because the person is hourly. So that's a different construction of this function as altogether. So at different time, be alert to the idea that these functions, sometimes you need to use this again and again. Not a little bit, this is unusual. But the other two are and or. They are widely used when we test for multiple conditions for the if function. A recently introduced new function in Excel called IFS function, available to 365 users. It allows us to deal with multiple conditions and an easier to read formula construction. In this worksheet called IFS function, the plural version of the if function. I've already written a formula here. Since I'm not going to use so many columns here, I'm going to hide them. And I'll make this column I wider and zoom in a bit. Now I'll double click this function here and I'll expose this. And just by looking at the function now, you can tell what's happening here. If the value in H2, if the job rating is 5, we are giving a bonus of 3,000. If it's 4, we are giving 2,000. If it's 3, we are giving 900. If it's 2, we are giving 99. If it's anything else, we are not giving anything else. Now we are using the nested functions here. If 3 nested ifs. And remember, you can use up to 164 nested ifs. Not 164, but just 64 nested ifs. We have used only 3 of them. Now what happens is when you use if inside of an if, it makes these functions harder to read. Because ultimately you need to take care of the parentheses, you need to take care of these commas and all the other stuff. Now I'm going to leave that there for the moment. Now I'll be putting a function in I2, I3. And we'll create a new variation of this same function using IFS, the plural version of if function. Let's start with IFS function. It says checks whether one or more conditions are met and returns a value corresponding to the first true condition. Doesn't tell you much about this function, but let's activate that. Let's see that in action. Ifs. Now the parameter says logical test 1. What is the first test? If the value in H2 is equal to 5, we give how much? 3000. Value if true. The second parameter is value if true. The value if true, this answer. Okay, very good. Logical test 2. Check again. If this is equal to 4, comma, value if true 2, 2000. Then check again. If this is equal to 3, comma, value if true 900. What if logical test 4? This is equal to what? 3, 2, 2. You give what? 99. Now we are checking for 5, job rating 5, 4, 3, 2. And now we are going to put in 1 because we're not going to put in any more condition. Now 1 doesn't mean here that value 1. We either put 1 or true here. Or and then over here we put the result for all other conditions. Now we're closing that function. If all of them are true, then we get no bonus. For everything else, no bonus, or we can put in, we can keep it blank either ways. And then we close only single bracket. And then we press enter, we'll get the same answer. And we copy that down. And let me remove this equal. Let me make it 3. So an easier to read formula construction here. And of course, I'm not making a strong case that you should start using IFS function rather than a function. But if IFS function is a lot more easier, if you're learning these functions for the first time, stick to IFS function, learn IFS function. But I can still see a lot of people find if function more comfortable because of such a long time they've been using it. Even I myself use if function, nested if, rather than using IFS function. So, but I think this function is really great, and it has less typing. It's a smaller function, and it's a better way of using a nested if function. And you can use up to 127 conditions in the IFS functions here. And you're less likely to make a mistake in IFS function rather than if function. But again, it's all up to you. It's all up to your comfort level, what you want to use. All of those parentheses, commas, you need not have to worry about it. We didn't did anything. We just put this is this, and anything else, we give it this. IFS function, relatively a new addition to the collection of functions in Excel.